The Smith Wesson J-frame revolver. First designed in the early 1950s, the Model 442 Airweight, which continues on with that design, has been tried and true, and is arguably one of the best and simplest deep concealment options on the market today. However, is 5 rounds truly enough, and does this tiny revolver have what it takes to be a relevant option in a modern world? So we have the Smith Wesson Model 442 Airweight revolver. This is chambered in 38 Special plus P. A lot of people don't give the 38 Special plus P enough credit, especially in such a tiny package. The plus P round has almost the same velocity as a 357. So when you have such a tiny handgun shooting that kind of round, it's definitely going to pack enough punch and have enough takedown. So you do only have 5 rounds with this model. In my personal opinion, for the application of this firearm, I think that's more than enough. This is a very up close and personal self-defense handgun. This isn't going to be for engaging a target at any kind of distance and stuff, which in a self-defense situation, most of those are between 3 and 7 yards anyway. So I think this is more than sufficient for that. And then it also offers you the reliability. If you'll see here, this model is a double action internal hammer. So it's not a hammerless. There is a hammer inside here, but it's an internal hammer. So there's no safety, there's no nothing. If you got bullets in the chamber, you pull the trigger, it's gonna fire. If you're one of those people that doesn't carry around in the chamber, which for self-defense, I recommend you probably should do that. But if you're one that doesn't, just because you're kind of leery about guns and stuff like that, but you do wanna have protection, in a self-defense situation, you might forget to rack the slide and pull the trigger and nothing happens, or you might have a safety on and you forget about that. So there's a lot of different variables in other model guns to where you can actually not be ready, and it all comes down to seconds in a self-defense situation. So for those reasons, I love this gun. I think even all these years later, it's extremely relevant. So as far as specs on this weighs about 15 ounces. The barrel is 1.8 inches. So it's a very small, lightweight gun. It is only 5 round capacity. The barrel is stainless steel and the frame is aluminum. They do have the 642 model. It is just all stainless. So if you'll want a stainless option, they do have that. But let's put some rounds through it and see what we think. So as you can see, if you were loading without a speed loader or a speed strip, it is a little slow. So as you can see, you could shoot this one-handed. It does have a little bit of recoil to it, but I mean, it's got a tiny barrel and a tiny grip, so kind of something to expect. But you could shoot it one-handed, no problem, and fairly accurately. As far as the sights, it's kind of more of a point and shoot situation. You're not going to really be looking at your sights. Some people do paint the front one with nail polish, kind of help you with your sight picture, but with something like this, you're really going to be in a point shoot situation. You're not shooting out at distances, so I wouldn't really worry about that. But I think this is an awesome firearm. And even all these years later, this design that is almost, 75 years old now, is just amazing. Obviously, this model has been around since the early 90s, and they've taken the model from the early 50s and just kind of modernized it and added and upgraded the features on it. So I think this is a very reliable firearm, very relevant for any application today. A great option to, if you're a female, put in your purse, or if you just want to have deep concealment. You can carry this in an ankle holster. You can carry it in a pocket holster. I prefer in the waistband, but you have plenty of options. Now, it does have a pretty good trigger pull, as most revolvers do. This one is a 10-pound trigger pull, so you do have to actually pull it back pretty good. One of the downsides to the revolver, obviously, is if you only have 5 rounds and you need to do reload fast, you can use a couple different options. You have your speed loaders, your speed strips. These are really good for keeping your rounds kind of organized and being able to load them somewhat fast. They're not great, but they probably are just kind of good. You'd have to really practice on these to get proficient at them and not drop them. But the thing I do like best about these strips is if you are going to carry this concealed and you're just looking for some deep concealment, is you can put this gun in a pocket holster. A lot of people like the sticky holsters. I prefer to carry it in the waistband, but you can have this in the waistband, have one of these speed strips in your pocket, and then that way, God forbid, if you ever needed to use it in a self-defense situation, and you needed more than 5 rounds, you could grab this and you wouldn't have to be fidgeting for rounds in your pocket and dropping rounds. So that's where I think something like this would come in handy. Like I said, it's not something that I think is really great, but it's better than a couple loose rounds in your pocket. So as far as the speed loader, it's a cool concept. Me personally, I've kind of always had difficulty trying to get it done kind of quick. I see that the concept behind it, but maybe just in the Airweight, it's kind of difficult. But you can see here that if you can get it lined up, you can get it loaded pretty quick. So, I mean, if you practice it, I think you could get proficient with it. I do prefer the speed strip over the speed loader just because it's a little more slim. And I don't know, you'd have to try them both and see kind of which one you like. Now the strip, you're just going to put them in 2 at a time, pop it off, which it is kind of cold out today, so this rubber is probably not the most forgiving, but you do something like that and you're back in business. But yeah, you got your speed strip and it's nice and flush. It's not going to cause a bulge in your pocket or anything like that. So that's why I prefer these. As you saw, it does take a little more time with this. The speed loader, once you get it lined up, if you get that angle just right, you can dump them in pretty quick. So I guess if you're going to carry a revolver, maybe you should train with each variation of it and see which one you're more proficient with. But I kind of just like this just for the fact that it is more slimline and a little more discreet. As far as holsters, the one that I'm using is just a Kydex holster, appendix carry, just in the waistband. Pretty simple, clips in. I prefer carrying like this, but to each their own. There's plenty of options out there. We talked about how small it is, the reliability, the fact that it's an internal hammer, so you don't have to worry about it getting caught on anything or an extra step when it comes time to fire. The fact that it's tiny, it's lightweight, it's a 38 special plus P, you got plenty of takedown power. It comes down to, is 5 rounds enough? In a self-defense situation, I would argue it's more than enough. This gun is designed for very up close and personal type self-defense. It's not designed for reaching out to distances. So for the application of what this gun is designed for, I think it's arguably one of the best options. You probably cannot get a more reliable platform in this small of a package. And for that reason, I think it's probably one of the best everyday carry options for deep concealment. Another great feature too is if you're older or you have issues with your hands and you can't rack a slide and it's just too hard for you, once this thing's loaded, if you find yourself in a self-defense situation, you can pull it out and be ready to go. So whether you're just taking your dog for a walk in a safe area and you want to have some protection with you, I think this is a very solid option. There's something about revolvers that I've always loved after having it for over 10 years. It's extremely reliable, perfect for deep concealment, and it's just an overall great gun to have in your collection, and I don't think you can go wrong with it.